To be honest, doing that debate wasn't exactly easy. In fact, I don't think that's ever been done before in American political history before, actually. You know, after that stroke, I got knocked down, but I got back up.
That was Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman last night at a campaign event in Pittsburgh, one day after debating his opponent Mehmet Oz and just months after suffering a stroke that nearly killed him. The lingering effects of that stroke include difficulties with auditory processing, which is something Fetterman acknowledged would give him a disadvantage at Tuesday's debate. But he powered through anyway. Some medical professionals commended his performance. One speech pathologist said, he still has a ways to go, but I think he's recovering very well. What he is showing is pretty typical. And while some pundits and politicians on the right mocked Fetterman's recovery or cast doubt on his fitness to serve, others doubled down on their support, including Senators Ben Ray Lujan and Chris Van Hollen, who both had strokes this year and who both were able to recover and return to work. Lujan tweeted that he is proud of Fetterman for bringing so much grit and fight to the debate stage, writing, "I know that debates are one of the hardest moments of any campaign, let alone 5 months after a serious stroke. I'm glad voters saw the clear contrast in this crucial Senate race." It's also apt to mention that in Pennsylvania, a lot of voters have actually already cast their ballots. Target Smart shows that so far, more than 683,000 votes have been cast. That's 73% of them have been, and 73% of them have been cast by registered Democrats. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor and Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, John Fetterman. I want to thank you, sir, for joining me. Thanks for being here today.
So great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So in this debate this week, you did call out your stroke. You called it the elephant in the room. And I acknowledge you're using closed captioning for this interview, for other interviews that you've done as part of that recovery process. And you've been very open about missing some words here, missing some words there. So let's just go ahead and address it. In your view, just logistically, you're running for the United States Senate and actually doing the job of senator. How would continuing to recover from your stroke impact doing that job if you were to win next week?
Yeah, all of our doctors believe that we are absolutely ready to be fit to be serving. And one of the things we always remind everybody is that by January, I would be much, much better, but Oz will still be a fraud. And, and I rely on the judgment on real doctors, not a fake doctor like Dr. Oz that has spent his entire campaign ridiculing it and counting how many words that I might miss. And again, I acknowledge that, of course, any debate is going to be easy for somebody in recovery. And we wanted to be and thought it was important to be there. And we showed up and getting knocked down, I always got back up. And to me, that's really at the essence of our campaign, is that we're running for any Pennsylvanian that ever got knocked down that has to get back up. And that's really what we're running on.
And it's not just Dr. Oz. I mean, it seems to be a very sort of common Republican talking point. There have been a lot of people in media who've made comments about it as well. But the Republican Party particularly, let me play what the person who's in charge of the Republican Party, her name is Ronna Romney McDaniel. This was Ms. McDaniel on Hugh Hewitt's program talking about your performance in the debate.
I do not underestimate what the triple toxicity politically of those three can do. I hope there are cameras and microphones, because you put those three together and they could say anything, Ronna.
Well, maybe they can get a full sentence out. I think John Fetterman drew the short straw on that one, right? I think all the candidates got together and said, which one of us has to campaign with Biden? And
yes, he said, I've lost, so bring him up here. I'm done. I'm toast. Put some butter on it.
So Biden said, between the two of us, we may be able to finish a full sentence.
So they were throwing a Biden dig in as well, and this is something that the right does a lot. But I've heard a lot of people and seen a lot of people on social media, they're talking about something called ableism, this idea of, mocking people who have any sort of disability. I mean, we saw Donald Trump do it when he was running for president. We've heard this sort of tone against you. And I wonder how you answer that. And do you feel that, having gone through this, that you are sort of having to be in defense of people that have had a disability, and has that given you more empathy for the people in this country who are going through something similar to what you are, or just other disabilities in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the connection that I've had with individuals have reached out all across the country. Wherever I'm out, just in Pennsylvania or even on social media, people reach out, and it's actually been inspiring. And they share their stories. And to me, it has absolutely made me much more empathetic than I thought I already was. And we've never tried to hide, what's happened, and that we're using captioning, and we talk about it and we address it, but we've always showed up. And last night we had 3,500 supporters out front, and we're having a rally. So we're being as transparent, and we showed up for the debate. And of course it wasn't going to be easy. And if anybody wants to mock that, or if anyone wants to make fun of that, I think, like I said, it's much more about, if you got knocked down, it's about getting back up and fighting. And that's exactly what we're doing. And
let me show the one thing that actually has come. I am of the mindset that debates don't necessarily move voters who, except maybe undecided voters. But the one thing that has come out of this debate that is memorable is this soundbite from your opponent, which your team is actually, I don't know if it was your team, it made into an ad, but take a look.
As a physician, I've been in the room when there's some difficult conversations happening. I don't want the federal government involved with that at all. I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive, to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves.
Women, doctors, and political leaders. How much is abortion playing into this race in your view?
Oh, absolutely. It's very critical, and it's been very motivating. And then actually to hear Dr. Oz speak about what he really believes about abortion, and the fact that it should be made by local political officials like Doug Mastriano. I mean, it's alarming, and the fact that now people realize exactly what he believes and the kind of vote he would make if he was in the Senate. You can't afford to give a clown a vote on Roe v. Wade, and he celebrated when Roe v. Wade fell. And this was really a true point where he mentioned just what he actually believes about abortion, and he believes that the choice belongs with people like himself or Doug Mastriano, and does not believe with women and their actual real doctors.
And just to make it clear, if Lindsey Graham's bill were before you and you were the United States Senator from Pennsylvania, how would you vote on Lindsey Graham's bill that would make an abortion ban national?
Yeah, to me, I run on Roe v. Wade, and that's what I've always run on, and that's what I would always stand, and I would call to eliminate the filibuster and be that vote to codify Roe v. Wade. It was the law of the nation, and that's why it should have never gone away. And I am running to make sure it's possible to always stand up for abortion rights.
And let me ask you one economic question, because I know economic issues are very much important to voters everywhere, including in Pennsylvania. You've been very critical of oil companies and laying a lot of the blame on them for the high prices that have sprung off of the high price of oil and gas. Do you feel that oil companies are more to blame and that price gouging, let's just be honest, is more to blame for the inflationary pressures we're seeing in the United States than, say, Biden's policies of giving stimmies or giving student loan relief?
Oh, of course. I mean, wasn't it? I think it was today that where Shell announced that nearly $10 billion in profits. I mean, it's astonishing. Now, we all know that inflation hurts Pennsylvania families, and it also shows that they have record profits. Of course, we have to push back against that. There's never been an oil company that Dr. Oz can take a look at and not want to swipe right about. I mean, he is never going to be the kind of senator that would ever stand up and push back about the greed and the price gouging. And, I stand on the side of working families here in Pennsylvania, and he would stand on the side of oil companies he actually believes that we're being too hard on these oil companies. So it really comes down to that very basic choice here in this race.
John Fetterman, Lieutenant Governor of the state of, the great state of Pennsylvania. Thank you very much. Really appreciate being here tonight.